Here's a pop quiz for you. Do you know the difference between self-confidence and self-worth? Well, it's easy to say without either one of them, you are going to have some trouble mentally. But there are differences, and there are ways to bump them back up and make you feel better. And that's where our author and podcast host and just all-around feel-good guru, Samantha Peters, back with us again today.
Yes,
nice
thank
to see
you for having me.
Nice to have you. And it's funny, you know, I mentioned confidence, I mentioned self-worth. We didn't talk about self-esteem, how that all plays into it too. But we'll get to that in a second. First, give us the difference. Give us the definition.
Yeah, so how many times do we think of that one thing that's going to make us feel fulfilled or happy when we get that dream car or the dream house or the promotion? And a lot of time it's that external validation from other people, and that's a lot of times what self-confidence is, right? Your abilities to be able to perform or your abilities in your own respect for yourself. But a lot of times that can crumble when you don't have a foundational piece, which is that self-worth, that innate ability to be able to cultivate love for yourself and respect and all of that.
And you've talked about that a lot. That, I mean, if you can't love yourself, then you really make things 10 times, if not more, harder than it has to be. But you mentioned, you know, in addition to self-confidence, you talked about how, you know, making other people happy. How much of what they think of you do you allow to come in?
That's the biggest part, right?
Right.
You have to have that self-worth and that self-love from within, cultivate those feelings from within, and then that's going to be emanated on everyone else. They're going to be able to pick up that
Because
energy.
if you're not surrounding yourself on it with the right people, your host is
So true.
as well. I have always talked about life like the stock market. You know, you have your ups, you have your downs, and then sometimes you have a tough day, and the next one could be what, or you know, vice versa. You have to get yourself out of these holes. You kind of have to celebrate every little win, no matter what it is, big or small.
It's so important to acknowledge the small wins, because there's actually a study that shows that we have 60,000 thoughts per day, and of those 60,000, 80% of them are negative.
Is that true?
It's true. Stanford did a study. It's crazy.
That's stunning.
So celebrating those small wins, even if it's, you know, you did laundry that day or, you know, you went to the gym. So celebrating those small wins is really going to help cultivate that relationship within, and that's positive self-talk.
I'm not big on stats, but that's
it's a huge
that
step.
is a big number. We had the graphic up a moment ago because of the last words up there said practice forgiveness, and that kind of is the yang to the yin of celebrating the small wins, right?
Absolutely, and you have to give yourself forgiveness and rid yourself of that guilt, because you were doing the best you could with the tools you had at the time. And a lot of times we linger and we think of, you know, the past, and we can't forgive, but that hinders us from building that relationship from within. That's positive.
Well, it's funny, you're talking about within, and many people have been, you know, promote manifesting their future with putting that positive vibe out there. But if it's shallow inside, it's just not the same.
I agree. Yeah, you really have to have that strong foundational piece of that love and self-worth.
Samantha Peters has a book that she actually has a second one coming out, which is a journal of sorts, right?
Yeah, it's already out, my journal.
Okay, and that is called?
It's 101 Journal Prompts to Heal from Childhood Trauma.
And it's a great idea for folks who don't quite realize where some of their frustration or sadness comes from.
So much of it comes from the past.
And I've dealt with that in my own personal trip for self-growth, and so I know that's an important thing.
Absolutely.
Samantha Peters, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Always nice to see you.